Hello and welcome to the show. We are at the Bajarama circuit driving 3 more cars till destruction. Our vehicles today are all kind of stripped down derby cars slash dirt racer cars. These, I don't know how they're going to fare particularly. They've not got the most powerful of engines. Certainly this Moonhawk, this is named the Terrible. So that's a promising thing going into surviving a Baja circuit. However, they are very, very simplified, which might be good for surviving. I fear with a lack of bodywork in general at the front, we might kill radiators fairly quickly, and with not massively powerful engines, we might struggle. Or with the likes of radiator springs, that is a notorious car-killing place, but we will have to wait and see. The Moonhawk has proved to be a fairly solid choice, if a little prone to catching fire. It is something to watch out for, and especially in this version, you can see how exposed the fuel tank is at the back there. It's not going to take much. Probably shouldn't be putting the camera through the floor, though, as we're coming to try and deal with corners, you know, but yeah, it's easy. If we do get a jump a little bit wrong, we can hit the back of the car, and that will cause it some problems. Hitting the front of the car can also break steering and break wheel axles and so on as well. No fancy drive lines. This just rear-wheel drive with about the most simple of suspension you can get on a car. Concerns, of course, with a rear-wheel drive car is, got to cross radiator springs though without breaking the radiator, which is always nice. Concerns with rear-wheel drive is, of course, we lose any wheel on this car, and it's going to be a problem. We lose a rear wheel, it'll probably stop the car from moving. I highly doubt this has got a diff, being the Terrible, that will allow it to drive, or allow it to sort of do one-wheel drive. Of course, we whack up the front, we lose a front wheel, we have a lot of problem with steering. It's can be kind of drivable, depends on in what way the front buckles up. Sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes maybe not, and of course it is always going to be the front of the car that is taking a battering around here, unless we can get the front up across these jumps, which actually doing not a bad job of. That's not what we want. We want to keep the front up in the air. The suspension does look like, certainly at the back, it looks like it's given up the ghost. It's just it doesn't have the wheel, to suspension anymore. It's just all sort of wobbly. But it's not causing major problems as of yet. I'll be quick enough to get across the double, only just though. I'm bringing that back under control before we try and approach another jump. That was, we don't quite have the speed in this, as perhaps you might expect. I am quite impressed by the radiator's will to carry on. I probably should, every time I say that, then the radiator will die on the next tiniest of bumps. But the fact is, we are going to make it around, I think, the opening lap without having lost a radiator, although we do have to get across this jump, which in the fast cars is not a problem. In the fast vehicles don't really notice that jump, but in something like this that is a little bit slower, you can get into trouble across there. We hit it quite hard, however, that is 1 lap done without the radiator having gone. That's not bad going from the Terrible at all. Okay, I mean, we have got quite a long way if we're going to beat the previous the off-road Moonhawk that went a little while ago. I think it died down the motocross jumps on its lap 2. It's got to make it onto its 3rd lap if it wants to beat the more normal Moonhawk. That, or with its tyres burnt out in a massive fireball, would go out in spectacular style. This at the moment is actually showing no real signs of giving up, really. There is huge suspension damage to the rear. The front though is not doing too badly, and well, I mean, the bodywork's a little bit bent, but nothing majorly problematic. And even the chassis is staying relatively untwisted. We saw with a couple of cars last time out that they were taking a huge amount of chassis damage. It was pretty much dragging on the floor around most corners, and that's not what we're having going on here with the Terrible. And again, this is all promising news. I think we're going to want first gear as we come across the top here, down towards radiator springs. Come on, car, that's not good. Oh, that's not good at all. I saw it started twisting and nosediving, and it's not quite well. I'm surprised to see the drive shaft gone. I mean, radiator across there, I am not at all surprised. You know, that's the reason why it's called radiator springs. It has claimed many victims already. So surprised indeed to see it, the Moonhawk. The Barstow notorious for its papier-mâché drive shaft, but the Moonhawk will go out with drive shaft failure. It was a nasty hit, no doubt about that, but certainly many cars have survived worse and kept the drive shaft intact. I wonder if perhaps the lack of bodywork cushioning any of those blows, because you are pretty much crashing onto the chassis. If it's bent and twisted something, we can kind of see the angle the gearbox is at from that crash. It's not the worst angle that we've seen actually from from a car, but either way, that's the terrible done for. A little bit of shame. It was doing very well up until that point. Very well indeed. Some suspension damage and so on, but that's to be expected. It wasn't on fire, but that's what some of these jumps can do. And the car's not strong enough. It will go out. Still, onto its second lap isn't the worst possible result. So we go from the terrible to the uncouth. This is a essentially stripped down D-Series. Now, theoretically, could do relatively well, as the vehicle is loosely off-road based. I say loosely off-road based, you know, while the D-Series pickup truck is designed to deal with a little bit rougher roads, it isn't designed to deal with a circuit and a track as brutal as this bajarama one, much as I say with the rally cars. While, yeah, they can deal with small bumps and jumps and so on, this has got very, very large bumps and jumps, and some of them the car might not be quick enough to properly clear to get properly nice landings, so we will have to see how this one manages. The answer is spectacularly. Well, I mean, couldn't have gone much more impressively if we had tried. There we go. We are back. It's not even got a V8 in it. This one's got an inline 6 in here. It's not very quick. That could be a problem come radiator springs. Are we going to be quick enough to get out there? We might just about be fast enough. Now, we have seen with D-Series in the past that have gone around here. Because there is very, very little weight over the back and the suspension is relatively soft, these do tend to get bounced. They tend to get bounced around a lot, and that's a problem. The radiator has already gone, and I'm not particularly surprised in all of that. I would be quite surprised, though, if it's overheating that kills it in the end. This one is already bouncing around at an alarming rate, and I feel like one of these landings is going to do the truck in. Also, if you were in cockpit view for this, good luck seeing anything. Oh, we're going to go again. And another front flip. It's fine. It's okay. I mean, the driver might be a little bit... oh, yeah. Visibility is the least of your problems. Visibility is by far the least of your problems now after that flop. Sorry, my voice had a momentary die. The weight shedding, I don't think, has really done much to help this truck's performance. There is still not a huge amount. I was going to say it was a half-decent turn. If we had the power to get out the other side, that would have been a great turn, but we didn't. We just didn't really go anywhere out the other side. We should be pretty good down the motocross section. This is one area that the D-Series should work, because we have got a decent ride height. We're actually hitting the ground with the front wheels rather than hitting it with the chassis, which means that we're not going to be taking any additional damage down here. But, I mean, the worst of the damage is already done with the radiator gone. I'm also fairly sure that I spied my rear axle is actually twisted. Yes, it is. It's oh crap, that's a bit too much speed. Oh. We've got some control in all of that. Yeah, the rear right-hand corner is lifted up slightly, so the whole axle is twisted. I mean, there are worse problems. We've got slightly bigger issues than that at the moment. It will probably cause issues on landings of jumps. But the fact that the radiator, you know, is essentially a ticking time bomb at this stage. And oh god, come on, there we go. Flip the uncouth over once more. Yeah, axle damage like that could lead to bigger problems, although we could get away with just these sort of nothing rolls. You know, in general, rolling around this circuit is better in many ways than some of the other possible results of accidents, because at least when the truck's rolling, when the car's rolling, it's dissipating its energy, and if it lands on its roof when you wreck the roof, it doesn't matter. You know, if the roof takes all of the force in an impact, in a crash, you know, it can crush that up as much as it likes. It's not going to stop the vehicle from driving. So rolling over isn't a terrible thing as long as we aren't snapping drive shafts and so on. And I would say as well as we are breaking radiators, but it's a little bit too late for all of that. Much better this time around. I mean, the truck is starting to... I mean, it's starting to lean a little bit. I said about it, if it was going to go out from overheating, I'd be surprised. I'm not so sure anymore. The wheels are actually holding up very, very well, even with these big crashes and these big twists that we're getting on the landings. I was kind of half expecting to land one of these jumps awkward, get the truck bounced, and then snap off a front wheel, or something like that. I mean, it may well still happen. We have got a little while to go before it is going to succumb to overheating. Temperature gauge is rising slightly. Oh, yeah, you see again, it's actually surviving that pretty well. It's surviving these nasty impacts without too much trouble. Can we survive radiator springs, though? Oh, no. We can't. However, we are still mobile. Now, I think that might mean the drive shaft. I think that's the rear drive shaft that means. So, we are now a front-wheel drive pickup truck. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what it is. Otherwise, it'd be drive shaft right, and I'm not sure that would make sense. Or maybe it just means it's the... I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what wheel was up in the air then when it was spinning stuff manically. I mean, it doesn't really steer very well anymore. The front left isn't really working. Yeah, okay, that's actually interesting. The front left, I think, does actually still steer to the left slightly, but doesn't... Yeah, front left has got buckled in such a way where it steers left, but it doesn't steer right. So that's peculiar. However, it is... Again, it's kind of not a major concern right now. It's going to become one more if it gets any more buckled. The temperature is starting... Oh, we can get some. It doesn't... Oh, that didn't feel particularly good. No, okay, we can't really do very much with that front left. It's just permanently buckled, but we are still capable of steering right for the moment. These jumps might be problematic. We'll get the first one, I would imagine, but we're struggling for speed at the best of times. And, oh, there's a bit of a heavy impact, and that means we're not going to be quick enough up here. Coolant is overheating. In fact, we were so slow up there that it didn't really matter anyway, because we weren't making the speed to actually hit the jump too hard. We are starting to have more issues in turning to the right, or perhaps it's just a tighter turn than the previous ones. Oh, come on, we can do this, a little bit of handbrake, is going to be needed, I think. However, we are on to our third lap, and it does look like the Uncouth, it only has to make another corner and a little bit to go further than the Sports D series that has gone before it. Yep, that went out around here with an entirely melted engine block. Quite an impressive one. No other car managed to overheat its engine to such an extent. We have got overheating troubles with our Uncouth here. However, the coolant's overheating, the oil's overheating, but the engine is now starting to hurt. The head gasket is gone. I think it will go out to overheating because we've got to that stage now where we're starting to lose power, and this thing is so slow, or pretty damn slow to begin with. We're now not going fast enough to actually... Oh, not more front-wheel drive issues with the mountain. Oh, where are we going over there, truck? It was going perfectly straight, and then all of a sudden we're... Nope, we're visiting the bushes now. That's cost us a little bit in terms of... oh... We've got big steering problems here. Come on, we can make it around. We've got big steering problems, we've got big power problems. It's not going to make it much further. I think that's the engine off, in fact. That is the end for our Uncouth D-Series. However, made it further than the sports truck. Yeah, I had real fears that as it bounced around, we were going to snap wheels, and probably snap wheels quite quickly. It'd only take one unfortunate impact, despite... 3 front flipped attempts, I should point out. They were nowhere near complete front flips. And yeah, ruined suspension. We didn't have steering on that front left wheel for quite a while. I mean, we have sort of vague input. It's like the whole wheel axle is twisted rather than it being snapped, because I wonder if it actually might just be the body movement that's causing it to, like the suspension compression that's causing it to sort of look like it's moving. Either way, we could steer it for a while. It would go out through an overheated engine. Not a bad showing, though. Not a bad showing at all for this vehicle. And finally, we have got the Ghastly, or as I like to call it, the Stealth Burnside. It is, again, another stripped out vehicle. Kind of reminds me also of the one of the Top Gear episodes where they bought trucks and Clarkson had a Renault something that he painted like all black. This reminds me quite a lot of of that truck. Now, the Burnsides that got around here tended to do pretty well. The sort of standard Burnside was one of only 3 vehicles that have ever led this series, making it onto its 3rd lap, and quite a long way around on its 3rd lap as well, until it snapped a drive shaft. The Hot Rod Burnside, while not being very suited to this track, you know, massively lowered in comparison, still fared fairly well. So, there is potential for the Ghastly here to do relatively well. We are really quite slow. I mean, we are just about fast enough to get up there. I fear radiator springs. The problem is we've got not a great gearbox, and I'm at a choice of either... Oh, the diff's awful as well. We put it in first. Oh, okay, I thought first was a little bit shorter than it is. If we have it in first, we're just going to buzz the limiter. We have it in second, we get no power. There's not really... Not that there's a much power on offer at the best of times here. Come on, car. I mean, we don't have crazy oversteer problems with these rear-wheel drive vehicles because they're not making enough power to have crazy oversteer problems, which I guess is something. And there we go. Come on then, we can make radiator springs. Oh, I'm not sure. Problem is, I put that up into second. By the time it got it into second gear, we would have lost even more speed, I think. It's not a big enough run-up. It's not a big enough run-up for the Ghastly. Well, we have got a radiator broken on this car. Will that, though, be the cause of death? Will we be able to survive the punishment around the rest of the course? I was busy looking... at sort of suspension and so on, and then we nearly do an endo. Well, it was a spectacular shot. How are we doing in regards to our suspension quality? It actually looks pretty decent. I would say that's held up very well on an opening lap for a car. I mean, you know, the D-Series suspension never really... And the axle got bent, but the suspension never really collapsed. But you might expect that. The truck's got much heavier duty suspension than a Derby Burnside. But this thing does seem to be okay, certainly in comparison to the Terrible, although its rear suspension was shot after half a lap. And to be fair, a lot of cars, the rear suspension will be gone after half a lap. Certainly won't survive the lap. I now do think that this motocross section is taking its toll. Ghastly isn't quick enough. It is not quick enough. I'm trying to get all of the speed. We got away with that one there, thankfully. Trying to get as much speed out of it as I can. Unfortunately, to do that, I'm having to rev the absolute nuts of it in first for that section, and that's going to put our temperature up a bit quicker than I would like. Ugh. Yeah, those bits are not fun for this car. We're going to get some oversteer, but it's okay. I don't know, we've just got the boot open. That's it. I mean, the rest of the kind of panels and that sort of thing are okay. The door, one of the doors is a little bit bent, but for the most part, relatively well. I mean, there's been more internal damage than external damage, really, I think, in this car. Oh, temperature has spiked massively on this. That's a real concern. I did think for a second I saw a spit of fire, but it might have just been the sort of dust textures or the angle that I was at made it look like there was fire. For a second I thought we were going to have another fireball, but that was not to be the case. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it much further around here. Either the damage to the radiator was a lot more catastrophic in this than in the D-Series. This engine might just overheat a lot faster, or just the way I'm having to drive this vehicle. To be fair, I was having to drive the D-Series quite hard as well, but this is even less powerful than the D-Series. Come on, make your way up this hill. This might be quite a unspectacular. I was hoping for more. I'll be honest, I was hoping for more from the Burnside. We are kind of crashing around a bit, but I think it might just not be quick enough to really do very much in terms of spectacular damage. It's just the radiator's gone, it'll overheat, and then it'll slowly crumble and die around this bajarama circuit. Yeah, that second gear did not work. It's a sorry sight at the front now. Amazingly, I thought that was going to kill the drive shaft when I did that. Oh, yeah, that's... Not a pretty sight on our poor Burnside. I don't think it's quite as sad as the Hot Rod one was. Good God, we are limited to like 20 miles an hour, but I think the engine's gone anyway. Yeah, poor engine. Very poor engine in the Ghastly. It is a V8 of some description that has about 10 horsepower. That's going to come to a rest there. That's from standard. Until you start beating the car up, it was a big hit on radiator springs. That was a lot of force to have buckled the front up as much as it has. I mean, while yeah, it's slightly stripped down, I imagine this is still a pretty damn heavy car. Sure, not as heavy as the trucks if they go in face first to radiator springs, but yeah, that made a lovely mess of the front. But amazingly, the drive shaft is still in one piece. There we go. We can see it right there. It's at a slightly funky angle, but is enough to keep going. Actually kind of surprised that impact didn't kill the engine. It is possible to have a crash. We've seen it with the modern Pessima. In fact, both of the modern Pessimas that have run have a crash that just entirely knock out the main engine. I'm kind of surprised that one didn't, because I mean, you can see how far back the radiator and the front of the chassis were pushed in that. That's quite spectacular. But it would be overheating. Yeah, but awful engine in this car would be the death of the Burnside. So it is on to our leaderboard. The Uncouth will go highest of the D series, but only by one position. It couldn't quite make it as far as the Flappy Wheels Pessima or the I Series Race Car 200BX Drift Car, but still, 15th place is not too bad at all. I mean, getting onto the third lap is certainly not too bad. Going beats the likes of the Sunburst, the Moonhawk, the Roma, the diesel Pessima estate car, so yeah, for a stripped down and far less powerful pickup truck, it did survive an awful lot. We have to go a bit further down the order to find our other two cars, the Ghastly and the Terrible, 31st and 32nd position respectively, with the Ghastly's overheating engine quite quickly. Once that started overheating, that was gone very fast. I think just such an awful engine, and that yeah, you have to drive it so hard to get it going. Did not help matters. The Terrible, a weak drive shaft in the end. Yeah, it was a bit of a nasty hit over radiator springs. The Ghastly hit it a lot harder, and that kept going. And the Terrible does beat the Satsuma, the Rambulance, the 200BX, and the Twoima, but they all lose out to the I Series, and so on. So yeah, it's an interesting result with some of these derby cars. I didn't expect them to perhaps last quite as long as the main vehicles. There were some different failures though that cropped up, and the D series pickup, well, the Uncouth doing as well as it did, I think is yeah quite impressive going. That, though, is going to be it for this video. As ever, I shall link all the mods I've used in the description, so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. That's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.